Hello and welcome back once again every week to the Dual Screens podcast. My name is Andy, and I really love doing this show. It's very cathartic for me to come on the show and talk to a dev about the stuff they do to help bring the games we love to life. And I owe a lot to this show to help keep me sane over these last 3 or 4 years. So, with that out of the way, this is, of course, the Dual Screens podcast, the world's #1 indie dev interview show, probably. And joining me this week is Jack Bennett, the lead designer of Tales of Iron, an epic RPG adventure that features graphic and punishingly brutal combat between rats and frogs. Jack, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Hello, I'm doing good. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so I got the email about the game. I saw the trailer about the game. I played some of the game. And I have to ask you off the bat, how many frogs did you have to lick before this idea came into your mind?
No real frogs were harmed in the making of Tales of Iron, as I should say. There was no frogs licked. No frogs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go that far.
Mm-hmm.
But no, the actual game comes, the rats in it, all of the main rats are actually based on the director's pet rats. That's where it comes from.
So that's a thing people do. They have pet rats.
Well, he does it. He had like 6 of them, 7 of them. So yeah.
Yeah, I had a close friend of mine who actually has like 5 or 6 pet rats. And I'm always like, as a native New Yorker, having rats as pets is like having a pigeon as a pet. You don't do that. It's something you don't do. It's just not done.
People in the UK have pet pigeons. They race them and all sorts of crazy things.
So to sort of follow up on that frog licking question and the primary thrust of this game being rats versus frogs, Frogger, an iconic video game frog, is he just trying to get across the road, or is he pure evil? What do you think?
I don't know. Frog is crazy. You feel like after trying a couple of times, you give up. The guy can swim. He must be able to swim around it. Surely the road's not a good option for him. But I feel like Frogger's death is a little bit better than some of the frogs in Tales of Iron. Tales of Iron, they die pretty gruesome. So I think they'd rather be run over by a car.
That would make for a really good sci-fi original movie. Like someone did an adaptation of Frogger, but it's like super fucked up and gory. This giant mutant frog is trying to get across the street, and they won't let him.
Yeah, there's a remake, a reboot of the franchise for you.
All right, let's dive into Tales of Iron. I gave a brief description about it in the intro, but why don't you tell us what this game is from your own perspective?
I would say the easiest way for me to describe it is Redwall meets Dark Souls. I'd say that's the easy way in. It's the story of Reggie the Rat in this almost medieval kingdom. He becomes king, and then his kingdom is attacked and destroyed by the frogs. And it's him kind of rescuing his brothers, rebuilding his kingdom, and prospering and bringing peace back to the world. But obviously, that's all wrapped up in this really dark, brutal combat, really gory executions, and then lots of RPG mechanics on top of that, like upgrading your armors and weapons, crafting new weapons and armor. And it's got those classic like Souls-like things of like you can have the fat roll, and you've got your different weapons have different types of attacks. So but one thing we kind of add into that is like, I don't know if you've played like the newest God of War, they got those like different colored attacks. We've got that as well. Right. So it leads into this like really fluid cinematic combat, which is quite nice.
Yeah, and it's got a really eye-catching art style as well. I think that was the first thing that really drew me in, was like, this game looks stunning.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, we're a really small team, so there's only 2 artists. One is the character designer and one's the environment artist. But the main thing with that is the environment artist is from the Czech Republic. So a lot of that artwork's got those really like thick black lines around it and all the way around it. So that's kind of inspired by like Eastern European block printing. That's kind of where we get our style from. And then something that we do that not a lot, like most 2D games, when they make their levels, they'll make long layers that cover the full level, and then they maybe do like 3 or 4 of those, and they get a small amount of parallax. But with us, we like individually place unique assets throughout the level. So each level is made up of like 1,000 assets that is each placed to get so everything has a parallax effect on it, which gives it that intense like depth and movement in the scene, which really brings it to life.
Yeah, it allows for a lot of the gruesome details in the deaths to be really showcased and brought to life in ways you couldn't do
Yeah.
before. And I feel that's like the big catch is it's an amazing art style. It's got really tight gameplay, and it's so fun to watch rats and toads die.
Well, yeah,
in a
that's the
game.
thing. Like lots of people look at it and it looks like, oh, it is Redwall. It's like really cute and
Oh yeah, so
like a
adorable.
little, almost like a Disney movie from the outside. And then when they start playing, they're like, oh wow, I was not expecting like frog guts on the floor and frog heads coming off. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
definitely.
like Ratatouille, but when they're done with the restaurant, there's an invasion, and then they have to like melt down spoons to build armor.
Yeah, it gets dark. Like there's one scene at the very start of the game, like at the tournament, which I describe as our Game of Thrones moment, because it goes from like this really
Mm-hmm.
happy, joyous moment to suddenly just being like, oh, everyone's dead. This is really bad. So yeah, it does
You
get
know,
dark.
when I was playing it, one of the first things that came in my mind, this may actually kind of date me a little bit. I was thinking about these are what the ancestors of the mice in Voltron were doing back in the medieval times. So I don't know if you're familiar with Voltron, but there were these rats that always followed the princess around. That they were always by her side, and they're just like, scrappy little mice that helped fight evil. So I kind of imagine like they were the descendants of these rats in this ancient medieval kingdom. So um since frog licking wasn't involved in the inception of this game, what where did this come from? Where did the idea of a game about rats versus frogs
So like the main thing was
materialize from?
like I was saying, the main thing was like the pet rats. That's what got us into the
Mhm.
rats. And then the frogs came from, we wanted this medieval world that kind of had all of those like fantasy tropes. So we wanted like this goblin character, and obviously frogs kind of lead into that
I
image
see.
straight away. But in terms of the story, like it's basically this story of Reggie overcoming the odds and rebuilding his kingdom to what it used to be. And for us, that directly represented where we was as a studio at the time, because after our first game came out, it was a VR game, so there wasn't a lot of sales. We didn't have Tales of Iron ready to go, so we was in a position where like we was out of money. We had to all get like another job to fund our studio whilst we were making the demo. So we was kind of at that point where we was fighting against the odds and trying to overcome the evil of capitalism, some could say, to get back to where we was. So yeah, it's kind of a metaphor for where we was at the time.
Describe for us what the sort of core gameplay loop looks like in Tales of Iron.
So I would say it's that traditional RPG. So like you are following this story of Reggie fighting against the frogs. So you'll be going out doing quests, fighting frogs. Whilst doing that, you're collecting resources that you can purchase stuff from the shop. You're finding blueprints, you're finding ingredients. You bring them back to your keep. There, you're like upgrading your armors, you're crafting food to increase your overall health. And then the money that you earn by completing quests and completing side quests, you can then start upgrading your keep and bringing it back to what it used to be like. So you're kind of in this loop of doing quests, earning money, and upgrading your settlement, basically.
I mean, you would think that this would be a no contest because I think rats would just outnumber the frogs. I mean, I had just finished playing a Plague Tale not too long ago. Amazing game, all about rats. It's like Last of Us with rats.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to imagine a scenario where frogs would in any way outnumber or, you know, outstrength like a massive, massive pile of rats.
Maybe that's it though. Maybe there's just so many rats. There's like all sorts of inbreeding going on. They're not the strongest of rats. The frogs have had time to build a strong army.
Have you seen the Suicide Squad film that just came out recently?
I'm a big DC fan, but I'm not a fan of the DC movies.
Okay. I would encourage you to watch that film. There is a lady that can control rats in that game. And suffice it to say, if you watch to the end, you'll wonder how could a frog could ever defeat a rat. But I digress. I want you now. This is again, the game looks amazing. It plays amazing. It has a lot of heart, soul, blood, and guts. But there's one thing on the bullet points on those sweet PR bullet points that really kind of I was like, this can't be real. There's no way this is a thing that's happening in this game. This is a lie. I want you to tell our audience who is the narrator for your game.
Okay, so the narrator is Doug Cockle, who is better known as Geralt of Rivia. And yes, we was equally as surprised that he wanted to work with our tiny little indie studio, but he did, and it's amazing.
How what okay, so you said he wanted to work with you. Did he what was that like? Did you how do you pitch a game to
So,
Doug Cockle like, Doug, listen, it's gonna be
yeah,
rats and frogs, and we want you to like just spin the story with your sweet, sweet dulcet tunes.
exactly. So that was the thing. Like we was talking about having a narrator because the whole game is basically told to you through speech bubbles that have pictures in it,
Mhm.
and then we wanted a narrator over the top to kind of explain in broader detail what's going on. So like we was like, who could we have? Like what sort of voice do we want? And we was all like instantly like we'd really like Doug Cockle. Like, he's obviously massive and his voice is perfect. Like as soon as you hear his voice, you know you're in for like a dark, gruesome adventure. He fits the game perfectly. But we're just like, he's not gonna, we're like a 6-man studio, he's not gonna want to work with us. But we spoke to United Label, the publisher, and they was like, leave it to us, it's fine. And they took the game to him, showed him the game, and he was like, yeah, sweet, I want to be involved, this is good. And he was on and we was like, oh my god, this is happening.
What is that feeling like for you when you think someone that has such star power in the gaming industry, the voice of a series that has been played by millions of gamers, that went on to spawn a Netflix series with
Yeah.
equal fame and is now even more of a household name than it was when the books were around years before all this started. This voice of a game series is like, yes, you 6-person team, I am on board for your cute rat frog game.
I like it's just wild. Like it's I keep saying it's like a career highlight, basically. It's just you just don't expect it to be able to happen. But the thing on top of that is like he is just so lovely. Like when you're in recording sessions with him, he's not I'm Geralt Rivia, I know what I'm doing. He's fully up for cooperating and working with you. He's just, yeah, he's really nice. And like, he's such a professional. He just smash through the lines, get it right first time, and then we're just sat there chatting to him and talking about like, so what was that? What was it like recording that scene with the unicorn and Jennifer? How was that? So like, yeah, it's really cool.
What does that do for the team when you see someone like that come on board? Does it add like a little bit of pressure? Like, okay, now it's like real.
Yeah,
Like
well,
this.
that was the mad thing was like before we started making Tales of Iron, we all played The Witcher 3. We
Mhm.
all got it, like we love it. We love the Witcher series, but we all played it and it was just like, wow, this is amazing. Geralt's an absolute badass. So then to have him in the game is like it just gives it that almost like a seal of approval. Like it just makes it feel like it's a real big title, you know, it makes it feel like it's a real game.
Right. Plus, he gets to see what a game is like with tighter gameplay controls.
I didn't say that. I like The Witcher.
Yeah, I mean, I do too, but just I'm just saying stuff. um, Speaking of the gameplay, let's walk a bit through that. So you mentioned Dark Souls inspiration. How do you plan a game like this when you take a Dark Souls formula, which is typically a 3D third person perspective, and put it onto a 2D plane?
Yeah.
How do you accommodate for that perspective change when making a Dark Souls like game?
So initially we went full in and was like, we're going to have a stamina bar. So
Mhm.
first of all, we had a stamina bar in the top left corner, and we just noticed that rather than watching the game, because we wanted the combat to be your main focus, obviously, but we noticed that people were just watching the UI. They were just
Mhm.
watching this yellow bar and being like, I can do a dodge roll now, I can do an attack. And that's not what we wanted because we've got these different color attacks that you've got to respond to. We wanted people focused on the enemy. We wanted people to understand how that enemy is going to attack you, respond to that appropriately, and really enjoy that gory finisher. So by removing that stamina bar, it allowed people to focus on the enemy and they're more willing to take the risk because they're not like worried, oh, I haven't got the stamina to do a dodge roll, I haven't got the stamina to do parry. They're more willing to be, I could maybe I'll sneak an attack in here, or maybe I'll try and dodge through this attack, which leads into those more tense moments that are Souls like in feeling. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how we replicated that Souls feel in 2D, was to create those tense engagements without the restrictions of, because obviously in 3D you've got so much more movement that the stamina
Right.
bar makes sense for you to be able to dodge around that character. So we brought that intensity back by removing the stamina bar.
Did you look to games like Salt and Sanctuary or Death's Gambit or Blasphemous to see how they handle a similar like approach to a 2D Dark Souls game?
Yeah, like Sword and Sanctuary and obviously Hollow Knight, they were
Mhm.
all inspirations for us. But I think with them, our main difference is that we're more story based. So we still have this story that runs through the whole game and it introduces you to the world and the characters and you're completing these quests. Whereas with Dark Souls and Hollow Knight, it's more about like just exploring and just completing bosses basically. So they were sort of inspirations for us, but we have taken it in like a quite a different angle.
It's amazing how enduring this genre has become since we first saw Demon Souls so long ago, and I feel like I'm not yet tired of it. When I see something that has a Dark Souls like descriptor, it's right there with like a roguelike game. My eyes kind of light up
Yeah.
because I kind of know what I'm getting into, but then I don't, which is why a game like this excites me so
Yeah,
much.
I think it's just got that. I mean, with any Dark Souls, you know you're going to get those intense moments. You know you're going to get challenged and you're going to die, but you know at the same time when you overcome that challenge, you're going to have such a rewarding feeling, unlike most other games. That I think that's what draws people in and why this genre, if it is a genre, is still going.
And again, one of the key features of a Dark Souls like game is, of course, a difficulty,
Yeah,
a steep learning curve that is there to make you feel a certain way where failure is part of the package.
yeah.
And then that euphoria when you beat a boss for the first time after losing 10 or 15 times beforehand. How do you approach difficulty in Tales of Iron? When you're making a boss, for example, and you're thinking, this isn't hard enough for what a Dark Souls game should be, or is this now too hard? How do you find that balance when designing like a big set piece boss fight moment?
So our main way of doing it was that all of our bosses have like a story-based character that we want them to show. So, I don't know, for example, we've got Sir Lancelot is one of the first frogs you fight, and he's got this lance that you've got to parry. So we knew we was going to have these parry attacks that we wanted you to deal with. But in order to balance that out, to make it harder, we was putting in these mobs. So we've always kind of focused on what the story is and how that should affect their combat, and then balance that out based on their position in the game. But then the way that we can make that difficult is based on where save benches are in comparison to that boss, where your healing barrels are in comparison to that boss. So the enemy is almost harder dependent on its situation as well as its actual attacks, if that makes sense. So,
Mhm.
but at the same time, balancing is one of those things where for you, it might be super easy, and for me, it's super hard. So I think we've tried to hit a good medium in which people, because again, we've still got that story that runs through the game that we want people to enjoy. So we've tried to make a good medium in which people are going to still be able to complete the game, but they're still going to get that difficulty curve that is Souls like.
Now, did you mention that the name was Sir Lancelot, the character's
Yeah.
name? So, and this is a rat, I assume?
No, it's a frog.
Oh, okay, because I was gonna say if it was a rat, I would have called him Fur Lancelot. And then I wanted to go into a little tangent. How do you embrace pun like names in a game like this?
100%.
Do you go full on with it, or is it like we can't call that guy like Sir Crokenstein? Like it's so on the nose.
There is all sorts of puns throughout the game. There's a boss, a rat boss called Ratno Rodentson as well,
Oh,
who's sort of Viking inspired. So yeah, there's a lot of puns in there. We don't shy away from that.
yeah, if you do like a DLC, like just take it in Asgard and call it like Ragnarok,
It
can do
writes
that.
itself. It writes itself.
Given again this game's, it's such a silly premise, but it has so much heart to it. What kind of ideas don't make it in to a
I mean,
game? Like when you're sitting there with your small team, it's like the beauty is being a small team. It's like anything goes in a
yeah,
sense. It's very few hands in the pot. Everyone gets heard,
yeah,
and more than likely it gets into the game.
yeah.
What has been like? We can't put that in there. It's just too insane.
I don't think there's anything that's too insane. I think, like you say, we're a small team and we want the game to be of like a really high polish level. I
Mhm.
think the main issue is just having the time to implement it to that level. So I wouldn't say there's nothing we would do, but there is things that have got cut because we just didn't have the time to implement them to the level we wanted. Like one of the one of the bosses that got cut, another pun, they were an enemy called Boggy Smalls, and it was a big frog with a little frog on his back. So the big
Uh-huh.
frog would jump around and the little frog would throw spears at you. But we just didn't have enough time to get this like double AI working together at the same time. And we wanted you to be able to kill one and then the other one fight you. So we just didn't have time to get that working, but maybe in the future.
I'm trying to, because I'm envisioning now like that character with the little frog and the spear throwing. What does this look like from, let's say, a human passerby? Like, let's say a person stumbled across rats and frogs with full blown out medieval gear fighting.
Yeah.
I think a human cam has to be an option at some point.
Well, the fact that you say that is like I've just stopped talking to my friends about my job because I sound insane. Like, like when I say like, oh yeah, today I was implementing a boss of two frogs that fight a tiny medieval rat warrior. I sound mental, so I just don't tell them anymore.
Like, oh, Jack's on those really good crazy pills today.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much.
What's been the most surprising thing you've learned about game development in this whole process when putting this, I'm gonna say a game of the year contender together? Because I feel like this, it's so damn good.
Yeah. Um, the craziest thing that I learned about game development, I feel like that we kind of learned it with the first game, but not to the same extent, is that a small team can produce quite a lot of work. And because I mean, we've got like 10, 11 hours of story and then 14 hours of full game. So a small team of six can produce a lot of content of a high quality in a fairly small time. So I think that's like the thing when I look at the game, like, wow, we actually did that. And then on top of that, there was like, and you can make games whilst the world's destroying itself. So
Mhm.
that's another thing, I guess, that it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, what's that been like for you guys? Was this game sort of was it in the process before COVID hit, or was this something that happened in the
So
midst of the pandemic?
I mean, I'm a game developer that's complaining about working from home, but I mean, it's not really the worst of situations with people in
Right.
the pandemic. I'll say that first of all. But the thing that really got us was like we, as I was saying, like we was super messed up after the first game, and then we got a publisher, and we was like, right, we can have an office again. We can all work together. We had an office for a year, and it was amazing. We was all working and collaborating together. We signed the contract for the office for the second year in January like 2020, and then in February 2020 it was like, here's a pandemic. and you've just signed an office for a year, and we're not going to let you out of that. So basically, we had to pay for an office for a year that we just couldn't use.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, which was, I mean, as an indie dev, that's just like brutal. But
Yeah.
I think the good thing about it is that we've now got to the point where, like, using Discord and Zoom and
Mhm.
all of that sort of thing, we can work from home and we can produce. I mean, the hardest bit of game development is the end of game development, and
Mhm.
we did that working remotely. So I think it's just proven to us that we can do this and save that money on the office. It's just
Right.
I don't see humans anymore.
Yeah, that's there are worse fates to suffer in this world.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously. I mean, listen, when I keep getting these emails about virtual events, I'm always like, I can watch someone do a demo of a game from my bedroom while I pretend that I'm wearing pants and they have no idea the whole time. Sign me
Exactly.
the fuck up. Like,
Like, I mean, I'm here complaining about a pandemic when there's literally been nurses and doctors working like 24/7. So
right, who never stop working. And I'm like, and I'm just like, oh, we're doing an in-person PAX West this year, but can I still go, but like do it from the toilet like I did last time? And on that note, what's it been like actually getting this game in front of people to actually see? Because on the promotion, again, having large in-person convention is a huge factor, and now that's been taken away from so many indie devs over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
So how do you spread
So
the word about this game besides having the voice of, a huge mega hit AAA game, you know?
well, like we've been going to, like you say, the digital event. So
Mhm.
we showed our first proper trailer at E3. We
Right.
just showed a trailer tonight at Gamescom. So
Mhm.
we've been showing trailers there, and then obviously United Label are owned by CI Games. So CI Games obviously have quite a lot of connection through the Sniper games. So they were able to get people in. So for like the last 2 weeks, we've been doing like press previews. So which is quite nice. You don't have the sort of craziness of events where people don't know where they're going, they don't know what's going on. It kind of removes that, and I can just talk to a person one to one without that
Mhm.
sort of pressure. So that was quite nice. So I think that's the main way. And then, I mean, obviously Twitter, but
Right.
that can be like a dumpster fire at the same time. So it's just like
Yeah, there's always days where I'm like, I should tweet more. Then I'm like, I shouldn't tweet at all anymore. It's like I don't even know. I can't sit through all this garbage.
well,
So much
it's that
noise.
it's that, and there's just so many games. Like there's
Right.
just so many great games coming out that it's
Mhm.
just like trying to get in there and get people to like focus on yours for more than a second, and
Mhm.
then like all of the big games radar and GameSpot and IGN have got AAA's to be covering, so it's like
Mhm.
it's just hitting the right moment of the right tire. I think is the hard bit.
Mhm. What excites you the most about game development as we now enter this new generation of, we got the PS5 out, the Series X, we have now the Steam Deck is a thing,
Yeah.
and we have the OLED Switch, which is whatever that is.
Nice
but
screen.
but yeah, it's such a nice screen. But when you look at the new tech, how does that influence you in your current game design philosophy?
I, I mean, we've done a little bit of the adaptive triggers with
Mhm.
Tales of Iron, but I think that's just going to be amazing in the future. Like,
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to properly getting a hold of that and being able to do stuff with that, because it just makes you feel more attached to the game, doesn't it? It makes you feel more like
Mhm.
you're actually in there. It makes the impacts feel real. And then just the rumble, the HD rumble, just like
Mhm.
feeling the rain in the world and feeling the wind, and that will be just, it just immerses you so much more. And I'm looking forward to that. But from game development as a whole, as an indie dev, it's just that idea of we're in control. Nobody's telling us what to make. we can make whatever we want. We can make a game about rats fighting frogs.
Did you ever imagine as a young kid that you'd be here one day talking about a game about rats versus frogs? And
I
it's
mean,
it's not only not totally insane, but it's likely the best thing ever.
I'm from a very working class background. Like my dad cleans windows for a living. I'm the first
Mhm.
person in my family to go to university. So I very much feel like I should have been in like a building site somewhere or delivering mail. So being here, sat behind a desk making video games is just like, wow, I don't have to go outside in the harsh weather and do real jobs. I can just make a game. So that's the bit that hits me sometimes, like, wow, this is actually my job.
So the game is very close to
Yeah,
releasing. We're like less than a month out. We're closing
yeah.
in. How do you feel?
Scared.
Scared.
Nah, I am super excited. Like, it's the best thing we've made ever. So I'm just super happy to have it out. It's out on all platforms, which is like insane. I mean, I'm happy to have it on every platform, but as a kid, I had a Nintendo. So it
Mm,
being on the Switch for me is just like another level of like, wow.
right.
As a kid, I was playing the SNES, and now I'm here with my game on a Switch. This is wild. So if I'm pretty excited for that, I'm excited to see people trying to do like no death runs. Excited for people. There's like parts in the game where I mean, it's like we're saying, like saying rats versus frogs is insanity, but there's bits
Sure.
it gets more insane. So there's other civilizations in there that I don't think people are going to be expecting. So
Oh
when they
my
see
God.
that, it's going to be like, wow. So I'm looking forward to people seeing that. Yeah.
Well, it does sort of prepare you. Like when you have the core premise off the bat of rats versus frogs, it's like it's all bets are off scenario. And it's like, how could a game like this possibly surprise me? And yet here we are, and I really can't wait to play this game in a couple of weeks. But to go back to what you said before, it must be so satisfying as knowing you were at one point in your life a young gamer playing Nintendo and Super Nintendo games, and now you're a part of that library of Nintendo Switch games.
Yeah, it's
It's a
absolutely
little unreal.
well. So like the really weird thing about it was is like as a kid, I had like some issue with my hip. So like for like almost like a year of my life, I had both my legs in plaster at the same time.
Oh my
So
God.
so like when other kids are out like playing football and like learning to ride bikes, I was there playing Super Mario 64 and like Banjo Kazooie and stuff. So now I'm making a 2D platform where it's kind of like it's just come full circle. It's like this is why it paid off. This is why I was sat there playing games. I was meant to do this. It's destiny. So it's quite nice.
Oh, we'll get to that later because that's like rapid fire territory of like dumb ways you've injured yourself or why you shouldn't be alive anymore. And I feel like having both your legs in plaster, there's a story there. There's a story there. So before we dive into that segment, a few more things. Share with us something about this game that no one knows yet. A little funny development story, really quickly.
Okay, so like a funny little story that I've got is like
Right.
we did a video with Unity, the engine that we use to make the game, about like how we use their lighting system and how we build our levels. And the art director did some voiceover over the top of it. He's like I said earlier, he's from the Czech Republic, so he's got a slight accent. And one of the things he says in it is our lead coder, Matt, but lots of people heard that as our late coder, Matt. So suddenly in the comments was like, rest in peace, Matt Taylor, rest in peace, Matt Taylor. And like Matt's commenting on it, like, I'm not dead. I'm still alive. But then it started spreading and it spread to Reddit. And then people on Reddit started commenting on our stuff like, rest in peace, Matt Taylor. So
Wait, we could use this.
but he's not dead, he's alive. We finished the game.
We'll play the sympathy card. That's how we do it. Good
So that was
God.
like a really unexpected moment, like because we watched the video before we released it and none of us heard that, so when it came out and people were hearing that, it was really really quite funny.
I mean, in that scenario, do you wait for a couple of mini muffin uh boxes to show up at your front door like condolences, like, all right, well, he's here, but we like the muffin, so let a few more come in, and they'll be like, no, he's not dead, he's very much alive.
it was just quite funny to see the thread like rest in peace Matt Taylor, and then Matt Taylor comment on it. I think he put like never give up, always believe as like as the comment on the video. So that was quite funny.
Oh my god. Could you imagine that reaching his family in some way before it clicked on your guys' end?
We should have just put in memory of at the beginning of all of our trailers, like a picture, like a black and white picture of it.
In the arms of an angel. Um, all right. I think that is a great way to segue into rapid fire. And there are some things we ask as the first question at the onset here, but I gotta know, why were both your legs in plaster? What did you do to yourself?
It's not even that exciting. Like for some reason, I didn't even hurt myself. It was just like I grew up, and for some reason, my hip didn't grow properly, so I had like a weird limp. And apparently the only way to fix this, according to doctors, is to put both your legs in plaster. But then also they put like a bar between your legs, so you're constantly like, yeah, basically your legs are like a capital A. So that was just my life for like a
Oh my
year.
god.
And like one of my memories from it is like at the time, obviously, I got chicken pox, so that wasn't fun as well.
Oh no.
Like having both your legs in plaster. And I was saying about my dad being like very working class. Whenever I needed to go upstairs, he would just pick me up by the bar in between my legs and just carry me like
Just like that.
So yeah, that was a fun story.
You see, I'm glad I asked, because my first vision was like a caterpillar kind of thing, like just your legs were like just conjoined, like you're just one big plaster.
Like a mermaid.
And you're just like, flopping around. All right. You sound like someone who spent a lot of time playing some really iconic games. You mentioned Banjo-Kazooie for one. So I want you to think long and hard about your entire body of video game playing history, games you've enjoyed throughout your entire life. What one game would you pick that you would like to relive, as in you would wipe your entire memory of that game from your mind and play it for the first time all over again?
I'd probably say Pokemon Silver.
Wow. Okay.
Purely for the moment where you complete the Johto region, and then they're like, here's a train ticket, jump on here and go back to Kanto. That moment as like a 12-year-old kid or 10-year-old kid, however old I was, just like blew my mind. Like, there's 2 games in this? There's 2 whole games in this game? Like, what's going on here? And like, I don't know what it was. Like, just obviously I was of that age where you just everyone got caught up in like Pokemania. Like, it was just wild. I had the cards, I had the toys, I had everything. So being able to play that game and make your own team and battle your friends at school, it was just like, wow. That or Ocarina of Time.
Oh man, that's a good choice too.
But Ocarina of Time, just because it was like my first proper RPG where you get into it and you're like, wow, like this isn't an actual world for me to explore. That's actually insane. So yeah, one of those 2.
Yeah, I've been replaying the entire Metal Gear Solid catalog, and it's amazing when knowing all the plot twists, all the cutscenes, all the dialogue, it's all in my brain somewhere. And watching it unfold for like the 20th time, it still gets to you a little bit. But like, I really thought, like, imagine if I had no idea what was going on. Like, these are just all fresh to me.
Yeah.
What a feeling.
I wish it was possible.
Yeah. Would you rather have an exact clone of yourself or $1 million?
$1 million. I'd never have to worry about getting funding for a video game again. I can make all the games I ever want to make. I feel like the clone would just be making games next to me, and I've got to find a wage for him.
I always fear that if I had a clone, they would just turn on me, because I would just use them to do the shit I didn't want to do.
I mean, how do you know they're not going to make you do the shit you don't want to
It
do?
would not be a fair deal. It would be like, listen, you get none of the fun. You're just here to work.
Well, surely if it's your clone as well, you'd just be stuck in an
Right.
endless battle. Nobody
And
can become
no,
the
there'd be just too lazy me in the world
other.
because I wouldn't want to fight him. I don't want that going on. That is weird. um, what do you think you get the most compliments about aside from your mighty beard?
You stole my answer. Most compliments. I don't know. I don't know. I've got the weird British thing of like not being able to accept a compliment. I don't.
Well,
If you give me a compliment, it's always followed by something negative or me being like, really? I don't. So I think if I've ever got a compliment, it's kind of just been wiped from my mind. So
right.
I don't.
Because it's like that can't be true. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, whatever. What do you want?
Yeah.
I don't have any money.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is something that you are terrible at that you wish you could do better?
Spelling. I'm
Oh
terrible.
wow, yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good answer.
It really annoys me though with spelling because like you know what I was trying to say.
Right,
Yeah, you can tell what the word is. Come on,
right,
you know what I'm saying. Like
right.
just because the A and the E are the wrong way around, like give me a break. There's worse things going on in the world than this spelling's wrong.
It makes me
Yeah.
wonder, how do we do tests nowadays in school? Do we have computers at the desks? Like, because I'm getting a flashback to like I would write essays
Yeah.
for tests in school,
Yeah.
and now I'm like, I have to spell check the most basic ass word
Yeah, like,
in an email. Like, how do you spell accommodate? Is it like four C's or five M's?
like I've been having this argument with one of the coders because I'm writing the story for another game, and I like to write everything by hand
Mhm.
because when I'm writing on a PC, as soon as that red line comes up underneath it, I'm like, I need to fix it. I need to check and fix it. Why have I spelt that wrong? But when I'm writing by hand, I can just
Mhm.
like reel it off. I'm not worried about the spelling, and it's a lot more free flowing. So my coder thinks I'm crazy for doing that because
Mm.
computers are better, but I tell him he's wrong.
You know, I think you just gave birth to a brand new rapid fire question here, Jack. Imagine someone, a random person on this entire planet, was handed a piece of paper with your handwriting on it. What would they think of the person who wrote that note? Would they think, oh, look at that, a 5-year-old wrote this, or this is a serial killer handwriting?
But my handwriting is neat, but I
Mhm.
write in very bold black letters, and they're all
Mhm.
capital letters.
Oh my
So they
God.
probably think they probably
Very
think
aggressive.
yeah, very aggressive and angry.
Stop yelling at me.
Yeah.
Just take it down a notch.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
that intense. Would you would you rather have the power of flight or invisibility?
Flight.
Mm,
Flight, I can go anywhere and do anything.
mhm.
Invisibility is just like it's almost creepy, isn't it? A little bit invisibility.
People always say that.
It's a little
And
bit
I
creepy.
always try to defend because I think I'd pick the latter.
How's
And
it going
not
to
and
help
not I mean, I have a lot of fun. That's for sure.
you?
I could have non-creepy fun. All right.
I mean, I guess you could get into somewhere late at night. I guess that,
Like,
or
you know,
if
like I would just patrol the streets and just fuck with people who are assholes to other people. That's what I would do.
but if you can
See?
fly, you could be like, right, I'm off to Jamaica today. I'm going to just chill out for a while. I'm off
Again,
to the top of Mount Everest. I don't have to climb up. See you later.
I can't even go for a walk in the park to shed a few pounds, Jack. I'm not gonna fly want to fly anywhere.
Yeah, but I'm thinking it's like Superman flight. I don't have to like flap my arms like wings. I'm thinking it's
I
still
just feel like there's a learning curve. Like, you know, I have to learn to fly. You have to get good at it. When it's just bam, no one sees me. It's just it's all the work is done.
Well, I hope you don't have to learn how to go invisible and you're just walking around as an invisible
Oh,
body.
and like first like the skin goes invisible.
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I just look at a really bad visual. Then again, that'd make for a cool movie. Man with invisible skin. Um, is it okay to sleep with socks on?
It depends how cold it is. If
Mm.
it's cold, then yes, I'll give you socks. But
Mm.
I'm a particularly hairy man, so
Mm.
normally very warm. So no, I don't
I
wear socks.
know. I know that. I know the feeling.
Yeah.
I am rife with Greek genes, Spartan blood. I have no warrior instinct, but I could grow hair like no one's business.
Exactly. So in that case, wearing socks. If you're a hairy man, then no socks. If it's cold and you're anything else, then yes, you can have socks.
Believe it or not, this is an actual question on my list, and I don't ask it often, but this seems appropriate, and I may know the answer, but here it is. Are rats cute?
Yeah. Well, that's prefixed by if they're a pet rat. If it's one of your New York street rats, then I would imagine probably not very cute.
Mm.
But a pet rat can be quite cute. They're really smart, so yeah, they can be cute.
Now the rats here steal your pizza.
Yeah,
That's what they
exactly.
do.
They'll probably hold you at knife point or something
What
in
they
the
do. I actually have a miniature schnauzer, and those dogs are bred to hunt and kill
yeah.
rats. And when we go for our nightly walks, and he sees one, like these like big fat juicy ones, and he's like a 20-pound dog, and it takes all of my might to like fight back his like genetic instinct and evolution. But yeah, New York rats not so cute. But I think like showbread rats, those could possibly
Yeah,
be
nice
cute.
rat.
Um, is cereal a soup?
No, no, not at all. It's too sweet. I don't think you get sweet soups.
Mm,
I don't think I think
right.
soup.
Ooh, see,
Can you,
that is a smart answer because people always go for the cold aspect. Like, could a
yeah,
soup be cold? And yeah, you have gazpacho as a cold soup. It's
yeah.
not. It's not sweet.
No, I
It's
don't think
still.
you
It's
get.
still a. It's still a savory soup, even though it's
Yeah.
cold. See, I like the way your mind works, Jack. I'm into it. Would you rather invent something new or discover something new?
I mean, I'd probably say invent. I mean, that's probably a bit like one in the one in the spotlight on me. Like, look what I've made. But I think if you've invented something, it's probably involved other people helping you, and you're working
Hmm.
together.
Right.
And if you've invented something, you're probably going to be helping other people as well.
Hmm.
Whereas if you discover something, you're probably just going to put it in a museum and people look at it. So I would imagine inventing something.
Okay. Alrighty. What is the most ridiculous thing someone has tricked you into doing?
Making video games. I spent 2 years of my life making a game
Oh my
about
god.
that.
That's gonna make for one fine eulogy one day, Jack.
Yeah. I spent the last 2 years making a game about rats and frogs. That's didn't see that coming.
Is there like a moment in the game where like a rat's about to die? Like, let's say it's a big boulder, and they're just like, "Oh, rats!" Like, is that ever a
No,
thing?
they don't speak in English, unfortunately. So you
Right,
can't. We couldn't get that sort of pun in, but there are. I mean, they do die in gruesome ways.
right. Who is your favorite cartoon character?
Probably Rick. At the moment, I'd say Rick from Rick and Morty.
Oh,
Just
wow.
yeah. I mean, just because he don't care.
Hmm.
He lives in that world where nothing matters. Nothing matters because
I
there is infinite worlds.
Rick, I feel, is a lot like a Larry David kind of character.
Yeah.
How a Rick exists within us all. Like
Yeah.
we wish we could be that brazen, that unapologetic, and
But
just that insane.
he's the perfect human because
Right.
he's unlocked. He doesn't have
Yes,
to
yes.
worry because he knows there is no consequences to
Yes.
anything. So
I love that. He is unlocked. He's
he
just
can do anything because he knows he can fix it by just leaving. He doesn't have to worry.
So Tales of Iron comes out, and huge success. It's going to be a huge success. I can feel it in deep in my fiber of my being, in my soul, in my grundle. I can feel it. It's going to happen. And you and the team are off celebrating, and you're drinking quite heavily.
Yeah.
What word best describes Jack when he's been drinking too much?
So when we showed our first trailer at E3, obviously that was like a really big thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
And like some of our mates joined us on Discord. My mates like Mike and Darcy, they like Uber Eats us Jaegers and everything.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so like we got kind of wasted when that was on. I was like trying to respond to people on Twitter whilst I was wasted. So I'd probably go with just a mess.
Mm.
Just a mess.
I like it.
It's just not a pleasant sight for any. It's just a sweaty mess. Yeah, a sweaty mess.
Oh no, it's sweaty, even better. Or just sweaty. Would you rather have the power to lie perfectly, or you would always have to tell the truth?
So when I play any video games where I can choose, I always play as the good guy. So I'm going to go with I'm always going to tell the truth.
Wow.
I'm going to go with that one. I
What's
mean, I don't think it's a good thing, but yeah, let's go with it.
What's it like playing Among Us with you? Is it just painfully obvious that you're
Yeah, you always get killed first because they think you're lying. Always the dead
guy. Let's see here. Would you rather sleep in a doghouse that's been very used by a number of different dogs, or let 100 stray dogs sleep in your bed?
Sleeping. Is it one night in the dog bed?
It's one night for each. Yeah.
I sleep in the dog's house. Let's do the dog's house.
All right. Okay.
I feel like I'd never be able to sleep in my bed again.
Right.
100 dogs.
You just have to move at that point.
Yeah, 100.
I mean, I'm a dog person through and through. I have a
Yeah.
dog. I love dogs my entire life, but 100 of them.
Yeah, I like dogs, but
yeah.
What are the chances of 100 dogs all being asleep at the same time? You know?
I know, and they've all met for the first time. Also,
that's just going to be a party, and you'll never sleep it.
Like I was at my sister's house last night, and she has 2 dogs, and they're siblings, but it's like they're bitter mortal enemies. So, and they know each other since birth. Like the teeth are showing when it's like they're out for blood.
That's the thing, like as well, if you've got 100 dogs, they just need to see one pigeon out the window and that's it. They're all going to be going mental out the window.
Right. Or you could say, all right, here's 100 dogs. Let's see who's alive. But by the time nighttime gets here, and then all the survivors can go into bed with me.
That's a good point. I won't be the same human. I'll go see 100 dog massacre afterwards.
All right. Let's we got final 2 questions here. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
So I'm veggie.
I'm
going to go yes. I like the sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
I could understand if the audio designer on the game, Francesco, is Italian. Mm-hmm. So we've had this conversation, and he will in no way accept that pineapple should be on pizza. So if you're an authentic Italian, I understand. Right. Yes.
Yeah, it's just I feel like you have to be staunchly against that if you have even a drop of Italian blood
exactly in
your body.
But I like it. I think.
And finally, I want you to think about someone close to you, be it a spouse, partner, or someone on your team, best friend, or sibling. They get a phone call in the dead of night from the police station that you've just been arrested. What crime have you committed, Jack?
Thinking I was invisible, being able to get in. No, I don't know. What crime have I committed? drunken mess comes to mind as well. So
I was
maybe
gonna say maybe it's that
yeah,
night you get those Jaegers
yeah,
sent over to you.
drunk
Oh
and
yeah,
disorderly,
right.
or if there's a football match on, it can get a little bit leery and rowdy. So maybe
hmm
drunk and disorderly there.
Yeah,
Maybe
taking a piss
yeah,
in the public
public
square in the
urination.
fountain. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, I see it. I see
Yeah.
it. Well, Jack, you have been lovely. You are officially one of my favorite humans out there.
Thank
I want
you.
to thank you for coming on this week and talking about yourself and Tales of Iron and all the fun details. So tell us right now, give us the whole PR, marketing, social media spiel. Where can we find out more about this game, Tales of
So
Iron?
Tales of Iron comes out on 17th September on all platforms, so Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, and we are constantly on Twitter, so at Oddbug Studio. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing people play it.
All right. And that's going to do it for this week, listeners. Once again, thank you, Jack. This was a lot of fun. And I cannot wait for this game to come out. It looks crazy and it's my kind of game.
Thanks. It's been great talking to you. I'm glad you like it. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to listening back.
All right. So I'll do it for this week, listeners. Thank you so much, Jack. And as always, please be excellent to each other and to Jack by buying his game when it comes out September 17th. Bye.